Hello, everybody. I'm Ed Parcaut, the host of Helping the Brave. Let's bring our guest today, Randy Surles. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. How you doing, man?
Can't complain. I get to talk to people a lot of times during the day. There's nothing wrong with that. And I was telling somebody else the other day, I get to do things where if I was at a table with my wife, she would grab my leg, telling me to shut up. Now she's not there to tell me that. And people laugh. It's so true because it's happened to all of us. All right. Only question I ask on every show is, what service did you join and why?
So I joined the Army because I took the ASVAB for the Marines when I was dropping out of college because I didn't like it. And my buddy had a brother that was in the Marines, and he said, "You don't want to do that. If you do anything, join the Army Rangers because they're just like the Marines. And then if you don't like them, you can do a lot of other things in the Army that you can't do in the Marines." That's kind of why I joined. I mean, I wanted to join the military because I wanted to learn how to scuba dive, jump out of airplanes, rock climb, and I didn't have any money. And there's no war going on. I joined in '87, so it was pretty tame. Nothing was going on. There wasn't really any money either. There was some kind of there was the GI Bill, the
That was
original
horrible.
Montgomery GI Bill, which wasn't worth a whole lot, and I didn't want to go to college either because at the time, so it didn't matter. So I went to the recruiter and said, he's like, hey, you want to be a wire layer? Look, I got this great video. Put a video in there. You can lay wire along the ground, under the ground. They got some people digging trenches above the ground, climbing trees. I'm like, no, don't want that. And then he showed me a couple others. So like, I want to be a ranger. So he showed me the ranger tape, which is basically the equivalent of the stripes. Are these my men? And I said, yeah, that's what I want to do. And so that's what I did.
Wow. So, did you retire? You were in for 30 years, right?
Yeah, a little bit over 30.
Wow. So when did you know you wanted to stay in forever?
I don't think I ever knew I wanted to stay in forever. It was every time reenlistment came up, it was kind of a surprise. I do have a theory though that if I had known what I know now, being a private with no bills coming in, I could have saved 50% of my salary in 4 years. I would have had a lot more options than I did when I actually reached that point in my real life when I had about the same $10 in my pocket that I did 4 years before, and I didn't really have a lot of options. I would have just got out the same place where I started in the beginning. But yeah, I stayed in for 4 years in the Rangers, and then I went to Just Cause in '89. And I was like, well, the next level up from Rangers, I mean, is probably Green Berets. I'd say in the Rangers, 1/3 of them went to Delta, 1/3 went to the Green Berets, and 1/3 got out after the first enlistment. So I saw an SF recruiter. I was like, that sounds cool. And I could be a medic, and that would be useful outside. So I got a bear enlistment bonus with the bear program and went to the medic course, which was 6 years. A 6-year enlistment. So that by then I'm at 10, right? I'm halfway.
So back up. So you went in one thing and was a ranger, and then you went to school for it to be like a 68 whiskey or something, or what?
No, I went to the Green Beret has
Okay.
4 professions: medic, communications, weapons and tactics, and engineering and demolition. And I went to the medic course, which is the longest and hardest and probably has the biggest fail rate. And it was in San Antonio. Then they moved it to Bragg. And you do come out, if you fail before you finish and you reach to a certain point, you do end up as a 68 whiskey. But I actually failed and became a Bravo because they usually they send the smartest to the medic course, and if you fail on the medic course, well, you're pretty smart, so you can be something else. So Bravo was a weapons guy. So I failed out of the medic course, went to the weapons course, passed it, did 2 years as a Green Beret as a weapons guy, and then I went back to the medic course, passed it, came back as a medic.
Gotcha. The reason I asked, my son's a 68 whiskey combat medic.
Okay, yeah. Same. They study in San Antonio still, I think, too.
Yeah, that's where I actually went for my physical therapy when I was in the Navy. Yeah, so when we went back there 20 some years later, and my son's there, I'm like, man, this river walk bringing me back some. Had good time than when I was there for my training years and years back, and that was in the '80s also.
Yeah.
but totally different world. Yeah.
When I went back to the second time to the medic course, it was the last course in San Antonio before they moved it to Bragg. So the day we graduated, they shut the school down.
Wow. You did it, huh? You just destroyed the school. It was all about you.
Yeah.
So, Rangers, most people, not everybody understands what a ranger is, but ranger is they put you through a lot to become a ranger. But is it as much as the Green Beret, or is it just so when you said the different, Delta, Green, all the different places that you can go to, or when they got out, the two different places, it's ranger, and then those are just units. Am I correct?
So there's 3 Ranger units,
Okay.
3 Ranger battalions, 2 in Georgia, 1 in Savannah, 1 in Benning, Georgia, and 1 in Washington State over Fort Lewis. And each one is a battalion, and then they got the headquarters is at Fort Benning, Georgia. And so you're talking about a couple thousand Rangers total, right? And most Rangers probably get out after their first enlistment. I would say probably over 50%. So you're always replacing the privates and things like that. But we went the course to get into the Rangers was at the time was called RIP, Ranger Indoctrination Program, and I don't think they'd really thought out anything other than we're weeding out the weak, because it was like obstacle courses 2 or 3 times a day, forced marches, running, harassment, do push-ups until someone quits, and it was rough. And it was 3 weeks of that hell, and then you went to your battalion, and you were treated like that for the first year of your life there, pretty much. I would say the Rangers was probably the hardest time I ever had in the Army, just because every day I felt I was physically being assessed and tested to stay. And I know the Rangers have evolved and changed a lot, and they're doing a lot of support for CAG and Delta and stuff like that. And their training's changed, and RASP is the new course that they do to assess people. And that's a long. I think it's 8 weeks long, and there's a weeding out portion for the first couple of weeks, I believe, and then after that, they're training you to join the force. So they're training you to shoot and move and communicate, which wasn't part of my experience. In fact, it's right next to the airborne school airport, which is a hill called Cardiac Hill, which is a hill that's straight up. And I swear one day all we did was run up and down that hill, buddy carry people up and down that hill for like 10 hours straight or something. I mean, it was just a big weeding out process. I felt that's the way I remember it. And then when I got to the unit, every day was a challenge. And I remember it being one of the hardest times of my life. But the Q course, which is a 3-week assessment and selection program also, and they actually to give you IQ tests, and they teach you how to do land navigation for like a week. So you get really solid classes, because one of the main things there's a whole week of land navigation. And one of the big things you have to pass is I think a 9-hour land navigation test day and night, walking 20, 30 kilometers with a backpack and stuff like that. So you actually learn some things, and then you work as a team doing different events and things like that. So that was a little bit more gentleman, like show up at this time in this uniform, don't be late, and then when you start something, there's not like a standard. It's like run until you see the chem light, then turn around and come back. And they don't tell you how fast you have to run. You just do your best kind of thing. So it was a little bit of a different assessment, but I was definitely physically ready for that. Once I've been in the Rangers, I felt I was physically ready for just about anything when I finished my time in the Rangers, for sure.
When did you stop being a Ranger, or did you?
So I was a Ranger I was in the Ranger unit. So if
Randy, bear with me here. I'm a Navy guy. All right. So my son's in the Army. I know he was airborne, and then he got tired of, he's like, I'm getting old jumping out of planes. I'm like,
yeah.
You're 22.
I had 130 jumps out of planes, and it's tough. And the last 30 were like, why am I going to keep doing this?
And he ran into his second to last one that he ran. They all ran into trees.
Yeah,
Wind changed. Yeah.
If you're going to jump a lot, you're going to run into a tree.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying he's like, and that was like rang his bell, and he's like, yeah, I think he just a lot of them at that point were like, okay, we're done. Yeah.
Well, I was a sergeant major jumping in my 27th year, and then I got assigned to Italy, and it was a non-jump unit, and I signed in. It was like, hey, sergeant major, we're going to have to take your jump pay. He's like, take it, you can have it.
That's what because at first he's like, I get this extra money to jump. Then he's like, I'm done.
No, I had 27 years at pretty much every single time of that, except for basic training, was on jump status. But so there's Ranger School and there's a Ranger unit. And Ranger School has a tab on your left shoulder. You have a tab that says Ranger.
Okay.
On your dress uniform, it's black and gold. If it's camouflage, it's camouflage colors. And that means you've graduated the Ranger School. The Ranger School is, depending on what year you went, anywhere from 8 to 10 weeks, anywhere from 3 to 4 phases. They have like a instruction phase, city phase in Benning. Then they have a mountain climbing phase, mountain walking through the Appalachian Trail kind of area up in Dahlonega, Georgia. They have a swamp phase down in Fort Eglin Air Force Base in Florida. And then they used to have a desert phase in Dugway, Utah that moved to Bliss at one time, but they got rid of it right before 9/11. And so we didn't have the desert phase for a while. But and if you get through that, it's supposed to be the premier leadership of the Army. And so you get through that and you get one MRE a day, and you're burning a lot more calories than that a day. So you're pretty much always hungry, and you're always tired, and you're put in leadership positions leading other hungry and tired people. And so you have to show your leadership ability by making sure they accomplish the mission successfully, even though they're hungry and tired and not very helpful sometimes because they're hungry and tired. So that's the Ranger School. And most people, it used to be only combat arms could go to that, and then they started letting other people go to it. And then when they started letting women go to it who couldn't be combat arms because they weren't allowed to it initially, they started letting women come from other, professions, and then they let women into combat arms after a few of them passed Ranger School. But it's not. I mean, it teaches you leadership abilities, but it's primarily for combat arms to lead you, during combat. That's kind of the intent behind it. So that's Ranger School. If you go to a Ranger unit, especially as a private, you don't have to have Ranger School, obviously, because most of the time you just came out of basic training. So you'll do a year or two in a Ranger unit, getting trained in all the things that Ranger School trains you in, because that's your bread and butter as a Ranger. And then eventually, usually before a normal person in the infantry will go, you'll get a chance to go as a private to Ranger School, which I did. I went as a PFC. I went as an E3. And so as an E3, and most people in there were E4s or above. And then you go to Ranger School, you get a tab, you're automatically promoted to E4, and you get E5 real quick after that in the Rangers as well. If you're come to the Rangers as a sergeant, E5 or above, I think, or an officer, as soon as you finish the assessment phase, the 3-week, in my time is 3 weeks, now it's the 8-week RASP, you would pretty immediately go to Ranger School, because you wouldn't be allowed to lead in the Ranger battalion unless you went to Ranger School. So that's kind of how it works as far as the Rangers goes.
Because you're a Ranger and a Green Beret.
Right. So then I was in the Rangers for 4 years. I went to Operation Just Cause just after I graduated Ranger School. And then I got injured in Panama. I recovered. And then I trained up to go to the Green Beret course like a year and a half later. And then I went to that. I qualified to attend the course. The academic course, I went to the medic course. I flunked the first one. Then I went to the weapons course, which
Gotcha.
I learned. Yeah, that's how it worked. So I got it. I was in the Green Berets in '93, and I left the Ranger Battalion in '91.
Okay.
Because the Green Beret course is like anywhere from 18 months to 24 months, depending on your profession.
Gotcha. And you were weapons.
Weapons and medic.
Yeah. Even though you got flunked out of medic.
Well, I went back to medic
Oh, did you? Okay.
after I flunked out. I went to weapons guy for 2 years, went back to the medic course, and then I went to the intelligence course too. So I had 3 professions by the time I retired.
So doing all this, when did you get into editing? Because I
Um,
mean, because all right, so you do so each time you just said it sneaks up on you that you're re-enlisting, you didn't know, and now you're coming on 30 years. When you decided, so the show's about your service and transitioning. Now, when it
right.
came to time, when did you start transitioning and going, okay, I need to do something else?
So I was always in my mind, like, because I didn't know when I was going to get out, I was always like, I got to get a degree. So every time, every free moment, I was taking classes especially after my first enlistment. So I took a class here, took a class there. Finally, about 13 years in 2020, I got enough credits to earn a history degree from Campbell University. So I had my degree. I was like, well, I got my list. I got 3 years left of my enlistment at least, and also I'm at 10, so I might as well do 20. But I still need a degree, and master's is better than a bachelor's. So I took some international relations classes. Then I got deployed to Afghanistan. I couldn't finish it, so I dropped the classes and was in Afghanistan for 9, 8, 10 months or whatever. Then I got transferred to Colombia, the embassy of Colombia, and one of the guys that was working for me was taking an MBA through the University of Maryland. And I said, oh, yeah, I should do that. So I did that for a couple of years. And then there were some hostages down in Colombia, and they were all getting rescued. And I got involved in supporting logistically that operation. So I just kind of dropped those courses and didn't finish my master's, my MBA. And then by the time that was done, I got promoted to sergeant major and moved back to the Green Berets from Colombia. And I said, you know what? All this stuff I'm doing, I don't really care about international relations. I don't care about MBA, but I love to read. And what I like to do is write when I get out. So I'm going to get a master's in creative writing. So I looked for a master's in creative writing near me, and there wasn't really one like a hybrid course of some sort. There's no way I could do a in-house course. And I found an online course at the University of Texas. So I applied, I sent some writing, they accepted me, and it's a 3-year course. It took me 5 years. I did a 5 years in that course. They extended me a couple times. It took me 2.5 years to write my thesis, which was a 350-page book. And then at the end of my career, I was in the middle of a divorce. I was 50 years old. I was retiring from 31 and a half years of military. And I wanted to be a writer, but I knew I wasn't going to make money immediately. So I walked the Camino de Santiago, 500 miles across Spain.
Yeah, we didn't do the whole thing because we were still working, but we did it twice. We did it the Portugal route, and we did the first time we did the other route. But the first one we started in Astorga.
Yeah.
So we didn't. Yeah, still did 3 weeks, but we didn't do the full 500. So
yeah. So yeah, I walked it, and I was trying to figure out what I was going to do. I met my current wife in the first week, and we walked the rest of it together. And she's from Hungary. And I also got an email from a podcast that I subscribed to about writing and editing. It says, hey, we're going to train people to be editors in our methodology. It's called the Story Grid method. And it's the Story Grid podcast was the name of the podcast. And I was like, well, this seems like, the universe talking to me. So I signed up for it. The dates were exactly during my terminal leave. And I was like, how do I say no to this? So while I was walking the Camino, I signed up for it and paid for it, finished the Camino, went there on my terminal leave, got certified in their methodology, and started working immediately as an editor that year.
Well, so you brought up the Camino de Santiago. So when I walked it, we hit a blizzard our first day out.
What month?
It was April.
Oh yeah, it's a little cold then.
Well, yeah, but it was only supposed to rain a little bit. It wasn't supposed to be like that. And we were out, and next thing I know, it's snowing and everything and getting muddy and whatever. And I didn't have my walking sticks were underneath the rain cover. And I'm like going, oh my God, I need my walking sticks. But if I put my pack down, it's gonna get all muddy. I look over to the right, and there's a walking stick leaning up against a fence. Right, and because
Wow.
if what they say about the Camino de Santiago, whatever you need, it will provide for you, and so I carried that whole and I told somebody else this, they were like, "You used that walking stick the whole time." I go, "Yeah, and I even brought it home." I interviewed another guy who did the Camino de Santiago, and he said, he lost so much weight on it, he didn't bring a belt, and his pants were dropping. He looks over at a tree. There's a pink belt in the tree. He grabs it, and it fits him. And I said, "I
Uh-oh.
bet you
Crazy.
brought that home also." He goes, "Yes, I did." So, what was there any story like that besides your wife that you found along the way?
I mean, she's my walking stick. I found my
There,
wife.
there you go.
But the first day, we walked at the end of May. In fact, next week is the day we met on the Camino. And I wrote that after I moved in with her. I wrote that down. After I met her, I wrote that down in my calendar to remind me every year. This is the day I met her. It's called Erica Meeting Day. And the first year it popped up, I woke up. I was like, "Hey, do you have a meeting today?" She's like, "No." I was like, "I got it. Are you sure you didn't tell me you had a meeting? Because I put it in my calendar." She's like, "No, I don't have a meeting." I forgot that it was the day we met, but she didn't remember either. So now we got it nailed. But the first day of the Camino, we didn't know each other. We walked over the freaking mountain in the Pyrenees,
Mhm.
and at the top of the mountain, all of a sudden, fist size hail started coming down, and no one was prepared for that, and everyone was running lightning storm, and everyone was running like we're all gonna die. It's just like the movie because everyone watches The Way with Emilio
Right.
Estevez.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Dies in the beginning. It's like we're just like the movie. We're all gonna die, and it was really bad. I mean, I mean, people were getting people got hurt from that hail. But I didn't actually pick anything up. No, I can't, except for my wife. I
Oh, that's a
don't.
huge thing you picked up
It is
on
a
the
huge
way.
thing. You know, there's a couple companies, if anyone's interested in doing this, that support veterans. They pay for the whole trip.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's the Warriors Way, I think it's called. The way, yeah, the Warriors Way, I think it is. I'll have to look it up. I'll send you the link if you want.
Please.
They pay for
I'll
your.
put it in the show notes.
Yeah, in fact, they're on it right now. I just got an email. I follow him on Facebook. He he's a chaplain, previously an Army chaplain. He pays for your plane ticket, pays for all your equipment, pays for your housing and food for the whole trip. I think they do 2 weeks, and it's specifically for guys with PTSD. And he brings a psychiatrist, and he's a chaplain, and so you walk through it. I mean, you went on it, so you walk so
Oh,
much,
dude, it's yeah.
you're in your head so much, you get it all out, and you want to talk to someone about it, and they bring the people to talk about it. It's a really good deal. There's another one that's not specifically for PTSD, but it also supports veterans on the they call it the way,
Right.
yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah. We took a horse up Osoboro.
Oh, cool.
It was the coolest thing, dude. And the horses were so big. I have pictures of them, and my kids were like, "Man, the horse makes Dad look small." And Dad's big.
I lost a lot of weight on that too. I was a little overweight as a sergeant major in a desk job. I lost 40 pounds.
Did you take it 30 or 40 days to do the whole thing?
30.
Okay. So it depends. Sometimes it's 30 to 40, depending on how you do it. I'm just
Right.
saying because you run into so many Europeans doing it because it's so close to them, to do it. And it's cheap for them to fly over there. And a lot of them will do 1 week a year to do the whole
Right.
thing,
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But we just were like, okay, we have 3 weeks. We still had kids, we still had jobs, and we're like, let's see what we can do. We did the first one, but then we are like, okay, let's and that keeps so what I did is I put it on Facebook. I took a picture of the book each day, everything we did. It's on Facebook. So people are following us. And every year it pops up. Like we just had our it was 8 years ago we did it, and it just popped up that we had just got to Santiago last weekend.
I did it the year after you. I did it in 2018.
Yeah. And then we
Uh,
went back because we swore we'd never do it again. And we went back and did the Portugal route, which Portugal route for me was horrible. I don't know if you ever, because you're walking on wood along the beach for
Oh,
most of it until you get into once you get into Spain, it's like, wow, this is amazing. I ate so much food in Spain on the way, because the first time, because you're right, you're walking 16 to 20 miles a day, depending on what you're doing. If you're following the book, if you're not following the book, but if you can, if you're going to do it, um, the coolest thing would be to take the horses up Bolsaburo, and it was amazing, because we're going up. It takes 2 hours when you take horse, not all day.
wow.
But people are staring at you, going, "Man, why didn't I think of that?"
Well, I arranged. My dad did it too. When I told him about it, he started from Madrid, and he ended up meeting me. We met at the 100-mile mark in that one town that a lot of people go to just to do a
Sorry,
week.
sorry.
Yeah, and then yeah, sorry, and then my mom brought my son, who was 14 at the time. So my dad and my son all walked the last 100 miles, and my mom took taxi from hostel to hostel and met us because she wasn't going to walk it. But so that was really cool. So all three generations, we walked the last 100 miles together.
That's pretty cool. We swore. I said I was in the barracks before. I'm not doing a hostel. So we did loose term hotels. So
Yeah, but if you walk the French way though, you almost have to do hostels in some of them because that's all that's there.
right, but again, it depends. Like, there's some, or the hostel is, it's you they some of the hostels have 2 rooms
Right.
attached to it that actually have a bathroom in their actual room, or a bathroom that's connected just for those 2 rooms. And people are like, "What?" And again, we had twin beds in every room, which we love, because that way we could sleep. Because if you're walking this and you're done, you're tired, you don't want to have to worry about someone moving in your bed. And because everybody's like, "I can't believe you guys slept in separate beds." Like, it was the best time ever.
I was so tired. I didn't have any problem sleeping at all. But I had bad knees from all the jumping, and I woke up at like 5 every morning to start. And I started like way ahead of everyone else.
Yeah, I had to stop a lot for my wife, just because I walk faster, just, at the time. And there was one day we did, was a 22-mile day, where you come into the town and there's like cobblestones you have to walk on all the way to the thing, and you know what I'm talking about. And there's a right in the middle of the road is a piece of granite all the way down a little strip. You're laughing because you know what I'm talking about. You're walking on that granite because you're tired
Yeah.
of the cobblestones. When we got to the hotel slash whatever it called, I looked over and they said, "Massage to your room." I'm like, "Is that available?" And they're like, "Yeah." Within 20 minutes, we had a lady to our room, and she's like,
Wow.
"Take your damn clothes off." I'm like, "Okay, I'm used to America. You get whatever." So I just laid down, and she goes, "What do you want?" I go, "It's just the freaking legs. That's it." I fell asleep. Then my wife's turn. Then we went down to eat. What a totally difference that is. And so
Yeah.
if you're going to do it, and the other thing people don't understand is you can have your stuff transfer for you between the 2
Yeah.
different hostels or hotels what you're going to, so that
Yeah.
you don't have to carry 35 pounds or 50 pounds, unless that's what you plan on doing and plan on sleeping outside on certain times. But
I
for
mean,
us, my wife, we couldn't handle that much. She had a disc problem. So once we found that, it was the best thing for both of us.
I only brought a change of clothes and a poncho. I had like 10, 12, 15 pounds or something. I didn't have very much.
Yeah, I had the clothes I was wearing plus 2 other sets. That's it, and it was all Columbia, light. And
Yeah. Yeah.
that was the problem when it started snowing and rain, that day, because
Went a little early. I read all the stuff. May's really the best time to start. It's not too
dude,
crowded.
the April was the best time, except because after that there was no problem. It was just that first day, the cross that you came across, the cross that's on the rock. I forget what it's called, but it's up. It had
Yeah.
snow all over it. It was the best. I mean, most beautiful picture you can get. But
Yeah.
to this, then there was one day we did the horses up Osobero, and the guy that has the horses, he's also has bicycles, and he's like, what you can do is go to walk 3K or kilometers, whatever, and then pick up mountain bikes, and then take them into the next town. And we
Wow.
did that, but he's like, keep them and go to the next one. Well, the next day it was raining, and we're riding our bikes. And so we'd stop and I'd wait for my wife in a bus stop, waiting for her to catch up. We got in so early, technically you can't check in until about 3. We got in
Yeah.
at 11, sopping wet. Luckily, the place we were staying, a lady was there cleaning, and she had just finished. She let us in. We didn't have our clothes yet because they didn't get transferred. And so
Yeah.
took showers, got into bed, and threw our stuff on the heaters and let them warm them up. But it was, a lot of people go, "Did you have a good time?" Yeah, I actually had a really good time, because, like you said, you're in your head thinking, "What are my plans? What am I?" Most people go on this thing spiritually, but most people want to, what is my plan for the rest of my life? What am I trying to do? There are couples who come on this event who end up with other people at the end of the event. That walk. I don't know if you know that, but there's so many of those that happen.
Oh, there's all kinds of stories. Yeah, I mean, most of the people you start with, if you walk the whole way, you end with them, or you spend at least 2 or 3 weeks seeing them every day in the same hostels all along the route, passing them, they pass you. You get to know their names and stories, and everyone kind of opens up after the second week.
Yeah. Same coffee shops, they get coffee, which is a loose term for a coffee shop, but you stop in there to have your breaks and, and get a beer into the night or whatever you're planning. Everybody stops at the same place, the pizza place in Saria. Everybody was, I saw so many people in there. We took a picture, and then later in the evening, I saw the people that were walking behind us in the picture behind us, all these other people. It's one of those things that it's like military. You get bonds with people because of the stuff you've been through.
Yeah.
All right. So how do people find you for your course that you're doing? I don't know if we got into your stories, the thing that the Skill Bridge internship thing that you're doing.
Yeah. So I have an internship, Skill Bridge, for transitioning service members. They can look me up on the Skill Bridge, though I'm renewing it right now, and apparently there's a delay. Or they can go straight to my website, which is militaryeditor.com or thestoryninja.com. Story Ninja, whichever. They're both there. And they can look for the internship, or they can just write me if they can't figure it out on my webpage, which should be pretty easy to figure out. And I'll give them all the information. So it's like 8 to 10 weeks. I'll teach you how to be a freelance editor like me if you want to. I'll teach you everything I learned and all the pitfalls I went through and how to find clients and how to do it. If you're interested in reading, then it's kind of perfect for you. If you love to read and you love to kind of analyze writing. And then if you just want to be an author, I also mentor them through their first book for a couple months. For once a week, I'll meet with them and talk to them about writing skills and give them some books to read and tips and skills and things like that. So that's where I really, I've probably put 10 people through the course. 3 of them went on to be editors, and they're pretty successful right now. 3 or 4 of them went on to be writers. I don't know what happened. The other 3, they never communicated with me, but that's fine too. They can go their own way. And I'm working with 6 people right now. So yeah, I have a little program they can go through. I got a kind of a list of books to read, and then we just talk about the concepts of writing and editing.
Now, do you help people who wrote a book? Do you edit their book? I mean, what type of editing were you talking about that you do? All types?
So my profession is a ghostwriter. People come to me with an idea, usually memoirs. They don't know how to write, and they want me to write it. So I'll interview them for 10 to 20 hours, depending on how long their story is. And I'll write the book for them, and we'll go through the chapters together and make sure I got the tone right and their voice right. Mm-hmm. I also, if they have an idea and they want to learn how to write, I will book coach them, meet with them once a month or twice or 3 times a month, whatever their availability is. And we'll walk through an outline. I'll help them make a compelling outline, and we'll walk through chapter by chapter if they want. And then if they already have a draft and they just don't know what to do with it next and how to make it better, and they want a second opinion, they can send it to me. I'll give them a 30-page report and say, look, this is kind of what's wrong with it, why it's not the pacing's wrong, the tone's wrong, the character arc isn't complete, or something like that. And I'll walk them through kind of what I saw and how they might fix it. And I just finished another SF guy I didn't know before. He found me, and he wrote his urban fantasy book, and he should be coming out next month. And I've done a bunch of memoirs for Vietnam vets. I wrote a New York Times bestseller with Scott Mann, Operation Pineapple Express, which is about the evacuation of Afghanistan. So I do I can teach people how to do this, but that's my job too. So people hire me to do that as well.
Well, I want to explain to people, ghostwriter doesn't mean that you write it for them. What you do is you ask questions and you get their words out and you write it in their words. Right. And I think a lot of people think ghostwriting means that you write the whole book and then they just slap their name on it. That's not how that works, because there's people who are really good writers and there's people who are good talkers, and you're usually not the same person. And people who want to write a book who are good talkers need somebody to translate what they're saying into their words. And the reason I bring this up is because I wrote my book, Financial Freedom, Building Personal Wealth through home ownership, with a ghostwriter who interviewed me constantly over a 12-week period, and we went through and through, and they got me down perfectly, so much that I took that book and uploaded it to Chat GPT so that Chat could, talk the way I talk on stuff that I create. And it's pretty amazing what ghostwriters do. So just because you use a ghostwriter does not mean that's not your book.
No, and also, I mean, some people are nice and they put me as a kind of contributor at the bottom of it, which I appreciate, and some people don't because they want to be the owner of that book, and that's fine with me. They paid me to help them write it, figure out their voice and get their information down. I'll do it. I've done it for fiction and nonfiction books too. The only thing I won't do is I won't share profits. A lot of people come to me, he's like, I got this great book. I'll give you all the ideas. You write it. We'll share the profits. I just won't. There's just too much. Um, there's too many things that can go wrong. Most books don't sell more than 5,000 copies.
Right.
So it just doesn't make sense for me. I have to make a living. And if I'm working for free and it never pays out, then I'll have to I'll have to live in the street or something. So a lot of people have asked me to do that. I did it once, but before I knew better, I did it with one guy, never made a dime off the book because it just didn't sell.
Right. Because most self-publishing, you don't have the backing. And then if you have a publisher, they take all the money. And people,
Most publishers will take 80 to 90% of your royalties.
Yeah, and you don't own a single word of it. You cannot turn it into a course. You can't do other things with it. You can't separate it out and talk about it. You can talk about my book, but you can't talk about what's in your book. And so you no longer own it.
And then there's the hybrid publishers, which are going to charge you anywhere from $5,000 to $30,000 to get it on the market, when you can probably get it out there yourself for a lot less if you just do a little research. Or if you want to get on a call with me, I'll explain to you how you can get it out there for a couple $1,000s at the very most. If that's
that's the course you should put together. What I mean is, I'm serious, because there's so many. So courses that sell really well are the low end stuff. And everybody wants to know, because I have 3 books right now I'm ready to upload. I just have not had the time to do it. And for people to do that, there should be a service out there or someone to teach you how to do it, or just, hey, we charge you $1,000, we'll upload it, and whatever. You already have your, whatever it is, there's a huge market right there. There's so many people who need help just at that last part, But again, I had some guy send me a chapter out of his book that I interviewed, because I asked him a question, and I'm sorry, I couldn't read it. I'm like, okay, this needed some more work. And I'm nothing negative. So I started reading. I'm like, okay. So I put it into Chat GPT and I said, please summarize this for me, what he was saying. And he said some good stuff, but it was just, I want a focused train of thought. And that's what an editor does for you, unless you're somebody like an Alex Hermosi, who went to school to be book writer and all that stuff.
Yeah. No, yeah. So yeah, if anyone's interested in my internship, give me a call, or if they just want to chat a little bit and get some guidance. I just talked to a guy today who he wrote a book about his time in Afghanistan, Iraq, and I just said, okay, man, here's a good thing, Ed. If you're writing a memoir, especially if you're in the military, there's like, let's call them 3 things you really need to figure out. 4. The first thing is this memoir, who is it for? Is it for you and your family and your friends? That's a legacy memoir. That's like, I was born here. I joined the Army here. I did this in the Army. I got out of the Army. That's great. Your family's going to love it. They're going to know what you did. Your kids or grandkids might not know you or know what you did. And now they're going to know what you did. And it's going to be great for them. But is it going to be a bestseller? Probably not. Are you going to make any money with it? Probably not. Because it doesn't have a theme. It doesn't have a through lesson. So if you're going to write a memoir to teach as a cautionary tale, to pass on your knowledge or what you went through, whether it's leadership or, good or bad leadership, or just some trials that you went through in the military, and you want to teach this to the next generation or the people who go through the Rangers or whatever, you need to figure out what that lesson is. And it needs to go all the way through the book, and it needs to exist in every single chapter of it, because you're talking to that specific person. And what does that person want to know? And you need to figure that out. And the biggest part of that is the marketing. All right. You're going to make a book with a cover and a title the reader's going to know exactly what your book's about when they look at it on Amazon, when you look at it on ads in Instagram or TikTok or Facebook, whatever. They got an ad there and it says, hey, did you have PTSD when you're in the military? So did I, and this is how I got better. Okay. If you put that on any of the social media right now, and there's a person out there who's suffering from this and needs help, they're going to pause at that and they're going to see what you have to say, and they're going to read the back of your book, and they're going to say, maybe I should get this, or this. Maybe they'll look for you on YouTube and see if you talk to anyone and see if this is a person that relates to me. Okay. And that's how you're going to get readers. But if you just have some picture you took in Afghanistan on there with you hugging a kid, they're not going to know that's about PTSD. They're going to think it's a legacy, story, and that they're not going to want to read that. So you really need to focus on title and cover. Is so important about marketing now, to get to focus everyone on what exactly. Pick this book up because I'm interested in what this has to say based on the title and the cover right then. That's 5 seconds. All right. And then making sure you don't lose them by talking to that reader that you're want to communicate with in every chapter.
I totally agree. It's like marketing. Who is your perfect client you're talking to? Who's your avatar? The reader you're talking to is that one person. That's all you need to write for, is that one person. There's a bunch of those people, but you got to talk to that one person. You can't talk to everybody because then people won't relate. And I don't think people understand that, but you do. So thanks for sharing that with us. And if people can go check you out. Question for you: the story ninjas. Why the ninjas? Did you used to watch the old movies when you were a kid?
Well, I was in that army. I guess when I was growing up, I was always obsessed with ninjas for some reason as a kid. And when whenever someone said something, I was like, freaking ninja, this, ninja, that. And people started, calling me ninja as a joke, not because I was a ninja or anything like that.
Gotcha.
And I actually have plaques where it says, good luck, ninja. And then when I wrote my thesis, which was a 350-page book for my creative writing master's about the first female Green Beret before females were allowed in the Green Berets. And I sent it to an editor because I wasn't an editor at the time. And her deal was her gimmick was she was the story mechanic. And she had on her webpage, she's like, do you need a tune-up? Do you need an engine rehaul? Those are her different services she offered, right? And I didn't really think of it at the first time. So I paid her and I got some feedback on it. And then later on, when I became an editor, I was like, all right, I need a gimmick. I need to get the story mechanic. That was awesome. What a great gimmick. I didn't even think about that. That's freaking awesome. I looked at her page again. I was like, I need something. And then I was like, I know. The story ninjas, that's awesome. So I got the domain name and I sat on it for a while because I was a little bit embarrassed. I was like, story ninjas, who's gonna hire the story ninjas? And then I was like, what's the gimmick? Okay, you want to slice and dice, and I was just trying to think it out. And I could never get the metaphors to work. But when I started my company, I got I have a partner who's a woman, and we pair up on our books because I'm military. She's a civilian. She's a woman. I'm a man. So we got two editors coming from different perspectives to look at your book. And most fiction books are going to have some romance element and some action element. So we really make a good team in that. And then also, if you want a book to be liked by men and women, which, you have to have that audience, but there's women that like this stuff too. Are you being misogynistic in there? She can kind of point that out. I'll actually overlook it because I'm like, what? That's normal, right? And she's like, no, it's not. I was like, oh, okay. And so
start with the military people.
Yeah. So whenever I do military memoirs and military science fiction stuff, she brings another kind of perception to it. So I said, hey, I got this thing, the domain name, Story Ninjas. What do you think? She's like, great. So our first logo was a ninja cartoon dressed in black and one dressed in pink, which wasn't my idea ever when I thought of the Story Ninjas. And I was like, I don't know if I like this or not. So, but we ended up with a better logo eventually.
That's funny. Yeah. I appreciate you sharing your story today, Randy.
Thanks for having me on, Ed, man. Appreciate it.
I've been enjoying, especially bringing back the Camino de Santiago. I think everybody should do that walk in Spain, just to figure out what you're going to do in life for whatever reason you're doing it. Just to think about, do nothing for 2 weeks or 30 days, whatever it is. It's a good time.
I I personally want to write a book about training for Rangers or Green Berets, like people coming out of high school want to go do these really cool jobs, but that take the physical fitness that they don't have. They've never been tested walking 30 days, 20 miles a day, hardening their feet, toughening up their back and actually being able to do this stuff. And you can do it, like you said, you can do it in 10 pounds for the first 5 days, and then put it to 20 pounds. And by the end, you're walking with 50 pounds. So you can get used to the load and be prepared for it. I think that'd be great. The Camino is awesome. And even the people getting out, I think everyone getting out should do it, just to get out of their head, try to figure out what they want to do with their life. It's awesome.
Yeah. Cause I mean, what a lot of people don't understand is there's a lot of, when we were walking, we ran into a couple and he got bought out by his government. And so
Yeah.
they were trying to figure out what they were going to do. They were like, you have, that was here's a ton of money, $100,000, go figure out what you're going to do with your life. And I want to go back and do it, but I want to ride a bike across it.
I live in Spain right now, and I live in a city called Sevilla, which is the start of another Camino called the Camino Plata, the Silver Camino, and it goes north up through Madrid, I think, and it goes all the way up. The foundation, the nonprofit, I just remember the name of it. It's called Warriors on the Way, and they have a website. You can sign up, a year out, and they'll kind of look at you, and if you have PTSD, they're going to pay for your trip if they're not full.
Wow. It's a great, I mean, cause we actually went to the, what's the older route called?
The French way.
No, the other one. There's another one. It has a little. It's segment off of that. There's another name because there's so many people don't understand. There's so many different. There's
right.
the main one.
Main right's called St. James.
Right, but that's the main one. But then there's it's like an older one. We ended up staying at a bread and breakfast over there. It was freaking amazing. But we had to get Primitivo.
Oh, the Primitivo, yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And so we went. My wife had picked it. We had to take a cab over to it from where we were, which was fine, but it was just amazing. And we took only one day, and then we swore the next time when we went back that we'd take more time off during the trip. So like you have 1 or 2 day rest days, not just one day, you're there and then you're gone the next day, take a couple extra days. And if you're doing it, we were so strict the first time to doing exactly the right. You know what? The second time we were like, let's take a train today.
Well, yeah, the motto in the thing is that everyone walks their own Camino. Camino means road or way in Spanish. And, there's a lady that was with me kind of on the same day, kind of every day in the same hostel, more or less. She had a huge suitcase with like 80 pairs of shoes and all kinds of clothes. And she would get the suitcase delivered to that hostel, open the suitcase, take whatever out, change and everything. And then she would pack it up, give it to the people at the front desk and call the taxi, and they would take it to the next hostel to be there for her. And if you get hurt, you can go less. Most people take a break at the big cities so they can do some little touring and have a rest day. But you can walk half as much as everyone else. You can take twice as much. The best thing about it is, and you did it a little bit more on the expensive side, looking for the hotels, the private rooms and the Airbnbs. But if you stay in hostels with other people, and a lot of people do that, and I did that, you can kind of get away with $35 a day, $20 for the hostel, including the lunch and dinner, and then like $15 for include breakfast and dinner, and then you 10 or 15 for lunch and water and snacks. You can $35-$40 a day, right? For 30 days. So you're talking under $1,500, not including the plane ticket. You can take a MAC flight. If you're a retired veteran or active duty on leave, you can take a MAC flight to Italy or Germany, and then just take a train over there or a quick hop plane for $150. So it's not super costly if you plan it out right. And you meet so many people. People are there, all kinds of people there with relationship problems. I just got divorced. I just broke up, blah, blah, blah. People who just graduated medical school don't know what they want to do, which specialty they want. This one lady was asked to join the Anglican Church as a female priest, one of the 5, and she didn't know if that's what she wanted to do, to be kind of a a way forward, one of the five, and be treated weird by people as they incorporated women in the Anglican Church. There's people, all kinds of people there, and everyone's there for a reason to walk a month, 500 miles. And about the second week, everyone opens up. And I met this guy, Ed, on the first day. We went around, we had sitting around a table, big table, all sharing food, like you do in these big hostels. And we were on the table, like, what are you, where are you from? What are you doing? This guy walked from Belgium. He'd been on his Camino for 2 months, walking for Belgium, and he still had a month to go. And we were like, holy shit. And then he's like, someone said, well, what have you learned? And he's like, well, I was walking for about 2 or almost 3 weeks. And my son called me on my birthday. And he said, Dad, I'm going to come pick you up. You're only 250 miles away. I'm going to pick you up, take you back for your birthday, and then I'll take you back the next morning and drop you off so you can continue where you started. So I've been walking for 3 weeks, and he picked me up, and I went home for the day, and he brought me back. And so what I learned was everything is closer than you think. That's what he said.
Wow.
But yeah, that guy walked 90 days.
Wow. And what people understand is you're going to meet people that you're supposed to meet. It's my wife was walking and I walk faster than her. She walked slower, and she met a guy who was from Canada, and he called himself the Canadian because he's Asian. And he was in the military, got out of the military, Canada. And then he went to be a CPA, and he just and he told his firm that he's taking some time off because of this. And they ended up, firing him, whatever. Long story short, he was thinking about going back to nursing school and becoming a nurse. My wife is a nurse. They're walking along. And so that whole day that they were walking, he helped her not think about the walk, and she helped him figure out what he was going to do with the rest of his life.
Yeah.
And you run into things like that all the time. I ran into so many people like that. So.
I met an accountant, American accountant, who had moved to Spain. And now I live in Spain. And who do you think's doing my stuff? 6 years later.
Right. All right, we better call it. It's been 52 minutes. These are normally 30 minutes because I can keep going on. We can do it afterwards. We can keep going on without everybody else. All right, Randy, thank you so much for being on the show. Check out the Story Ninjas. Go check out his stuff if you need help, if you want to become an editor. He's the guy to talk to. And again, Randy, thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, I just started this YouTube page, Military Writers Academy, where I'm talking about how to write your military memoir. So there's not a lot of stuff on there right now, but eventually there will be, and I'm going to be talking about all this stuff I've done and how to write your own memoir and stuff like that. Sorry, I didn't mention it earlier.
That's okay. We'll slide it in the show notes for people, so it's there. Okay. Thank you, Randy, again. Thank you so much for being here today.
Yep, man. Thanks for asking me.
My pleasure.